Today we will talk about the British military wristwatches from the Second World War up to the 1980s. Reliable timekeeping has always been an important aspect of warfare, so wristwatches have always been incredibly important tools. During World War II, Omega delivered more than 110,000 different types of watches to Britain's Ministry of Defense. The Omega CK2129 6B159, dubbed the Weems, was produced during the Second World War for navigators and pilots in the early days of the Battle of Britain. Around 2,000 of these watches were ordered and issued. A rotating bezel was used to make calculations easier during flights. The piece would feature two crowns, the upper to adjust the time, while the lower used to rotate the bezel. Towards the end of World War II, another Omega watch, the CK2444, became known for its water resistance. In fact, the Ministry of Defense gave it the triple W engraving on the caseback, which stood for waterproof wristwatch. There was also a broad arrow marking on the dial and caseback, which was typical of the British military. The Longines hydrographic survey watch was made from silver, which was easy to work with and also resistant to saltwater corrosion. These watches were individually handmade with screw-back front-end cases, with the winding crown protected by a screw-on cap, which was attached to a short chain to the outside of the case. The only significant upgrade was the fitting of rubber gaskets instead of oil-integrated leather, and cutting grooves into the case, which allowed it to be shut tightly with a wrench, massively improving the ability of the case to resist water pressure. By the 1950s, the jet propulsion age was in full swing, and the British Ministry of Defense would continue to rely on brands such as Longines, Omega, and IWC to supply them with military wristwatches. In the mid-1950s, a fresh new design was chosen by the British Navy as the official watch for its diving units. The watch chosen was none other than the Rolex Submariner, reference 6204. A definite game changer in the world of dive watches, and a watch that proved reliable for decades to come. Throughout the 50s and 60s, military dive watches would serve the Royal Navy proudly. And in 1967, the British Army and Navy made good use of the Omega Seamaster 300. Separating it from the civilian model was the big triangle at the 12 position. The Cabot Watch Company, or CWC, was established in 1972 with the purpose in mind of making military watches for the British forces. The mechanical GS navigator and the pilot's mechanical asymmetrical chronograph were the first watches to be produced by CWC. These watches would use the classic workhorse chronograph, the Valjoux 7733. In 1980, CWC supplied the first quartz watch to the British military, the G10 Quartz. In that same year, they commissioned the 1980 Royal Navy Diver Automatic. And in 1987, a new watch was requested by the Ministry of Defense, the Black Special Forces RM SBS issue Quartz Dive Watch, a piece that CWC continues to supply to this day. Even though the story of military wristwatches has evolved, and the stories these watches carried have changed throughout the decades, there has always been one constant, and that is the unwavering courage of the men who wore these watches. From the desert rats of North Africa to the SAS patrols of Vietnam. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.